Well, this is a great segment, and we're honored to have with us today Mr. Charles McGovern, who's going to talk a little bit about the experience of his brothers in the Korean War. And I'm going to turn it over to Tu, who's got a couple of really poignant questions, I believe, for Mr. McGovern.
Mr. McGovern, thank you so much for attending this event and welcome. We have a couple of questions we'd love to get your thoughts on and your memories. Can you tell us about your brother's service in the Korean War or your memories of your brothers?
I think it's hard for me to respond to that because we were home. The only thing we got from them were mail, once in a while. And for me to go back that many years, it's kind of hard to say specifically what they did or how they accomplished it. And I think that in the citations that they both received, it's all spelled out in detail. And
For those in the audience that don't know, Mr. McGovern's older brothers, one received the Medal of Honor for his bravery, and the next younger brother, Jerome, also received the Silver Star for his service. So their bravery is off the charts, and their sacrifice for their colleagues is something that those of us who've been in uniform and served realize just how great an honor that is, and what a sacrifice.
The fact that they died within 11 days of each other, played into it too. And that they died in the January, first part of February. It took until November of that year to have them back here to be buried in Arlington Cemetery.
Right, and anyone that wants to know more about the brothers' story really should Google their story, read the citations that they received for their medals.
And there's a website, McGovernBrothers.com.
Outstanding.
Okay.
Outstanding, because it's a great story, and it's one that needs to be told and needs to be known by future generations.
Yeah. Next.
And sir, what is the Wall of Remembrance? Why is it going to be special for you, important to you?
Okay. We were in Korea in June 2,000 years ago. And I just said that I was to give a speech that night before this huge audience of Koreans and all that stuff. I was so nervous, I sounded like Daffy Duck, But the one thing I did get out is that it was an old saying, and I don't know the origin of it, but it goes to the fact that a man dies twice. The first time that man or person dies, it's because the soul or the spirit leaves the body. And the second time that a man dies is when nobody or no one ever mentions the name again. And I say that what you have to do is repeat the names, say the names over, and louder and clear so they're never forgotten. And in a sense, I think that this wall with these names are in a way continually speaking to the people. And generations from now, people will be able to see that wall and find out about all these people that made the ultimate sacrifice.
Well, Mr. McGovern, I would say that the names of Robert and Jerome will never be forgotten. They will be spoken. They will be part of that wall for future generations.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, what do you want your grandchildren and the future younger generations to remember about the Wall of Remembrance?
I think the people that are represented on that wall were the ones that helped to save a nation. They saved South Korea as a country. And like I said, that I had Koreans over there 2 years ago take me aside. I had military from the U.S. over there take me aside and say that what they did not die in vain, that they saved our country. And I thought that gets to you, that tears to you,
Sure does. And I think that's, for Robert and Jerome, it's the same for many veterans who served over there. Yeah. They should be very proud of the accomplishment. At the end of the war, a lot of people said, well, it was a stalemate. It ended in a tie, right? The war wasn't decisive. But now look at 70 years later, the Republic of Korea is a great country, a great ally, one of the great nations on the planet. And it wouldn't be so if it wasn't for those men's sacrifice.
There's one element, too, is that we met a couple at the Pentecost from the state of Washington. And Mr. Pentecost, Bill Pentecost, brother, was missing in action. And you never have a closure to that. And I think, at least in our case, we know where Bob and Jerome are, and it's a comfort in a way to know that we can go to Arlington and see them, visit side by side.
Yes, sir.
What was it like growing up with your two brothers, Robert and Jerome? Do you recall some early memories of them when you were little?
Well, I was only about 8 or 9 years old, and that's.
It was just yesterday,
that was,
Charles.
That was 89 years ago, so it's kind of hard. But the other thing is we didn't have email and all this crap. Oh, whoops, I'm sorry, all this stuff nowadays. And the kids, they went out, they played. They were in the alley. They playing kickball and all that stuff. And Bob, when he was about 14, 15 years old, started a group called the U.S. Junior Marine Corps. And he had about 35 or 40 kids from that neighborhood that would come on Saturday and march up and down the alleyway. The Washington Evening Star came and did a story on it because these kids,
Right.
And that's the kind of guy he was. And Jerome was there with them. And I was like the mascot,
So they were born leaders. They were really born leaders.
I think so, yes. Yeah. So,
It's really an amazing story.
yeah, well,
And I guess it can't be said enough that for future generations now, their names will be inscribed on that wall forever. They will not be forgotten.
well, that's why I've established that website, just an effort to keep the legacy alive,
Absolutely.
So,
Well, thank you
Any
so
more?
much.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you
very
for
much.
joining us.
Yes.
okay, thank you for
And
having
enjoy
me.
this. Enjoy the ceremony today.
Okay, thank you for having me.
Thank you, sir.